Goblins are usually weak enemies, possibly even the weakest. A party of 6 struggles to fight off a few. They're unable to hit them with their weapons, let alone spells. It's kill or be killed. In Grimgar, goblins are the weakest enemies, right? Haru and Ranta sleep in, missing their breakfast duty. Moguzo, Yume, and Shihoru prepare their morning meal while Monatu checks up on them. Words bleed through from their previous lives, of which they have no memory, and they begin to lose their meaning. The last thing Haruhiro remembers is waking up in the world of Grimgar a few weeks prior. Calling out in a dark room upon waking, Haru hears multiple voices. Upon exiting, he sees the faces to match them. The rest of the party members and a few others stand around confused, unable to remember how they got here, or where here is for that matter. They find themselves talking to Brittany, the eccentric chief of the volunteer soldier squad in Ortana. They are given a choice to either volunteer or starve. Renji, one of the others who woke up in Grimgar, calls Brittany a pervert. To everyone's surprise, Brittany leaps from his chair, holding a blade to Renji's face, making it clear that no one calls him a perv and lives. Upon becoming soldiers in training, they receive 10 silver each to tide them over until they can make money by killing monsters and selling any loot they find in the process. Renji's party consists of the strongest, while Haruhiro's party consists of the leftovers. Monatu figures out that they need to join guilds if they are going to be volunteer soldiers. The group discusses their roles and each goes their separate ways to train. Haruhiro chooses to become a thief and heads to the Thieves Guild. He is immediately ambushed by his new instructor, a sexy yet sadistic teacher according to Haruhiro. After completing the initial 7 days of training, he is given the nickname Old Cat because his eyes are squinty, as if he's always tired, which Ranta also makes fun of. Yume joins the Hunters Guild, Shihoru joins the Mages Guild, Ranta joins the Dark Knights Guild, Moguzo joins the Warriors Guild, and Monatu joins the Priests Guild. The party reassembles and shares stories about their various guild instructors as they prepare to scout the forest for goblins, though they are unable to isolate one because 2 goblins are too much to handle. Yet another fruitless excursion. That makes 13 days without earning a single copper. Haru can't sleep. He finds Monatu awake as well upon his return from gaining information at the local tavern. They sit and talk for a while, underneath the red moon. If anything, Haru remembers that the moon isn't red where he came from. The next day, the party goes scouting to find a lone goblin to attack. They're in luck, as they see one standing by the river. Haru wonders if they should have some sort of signal, but Ranta destroys any hope of stealth. Running towards the river, Haru finds himself alone with the goblin. While fighting for his life, everyone catches up. Haru takes a knife to the shoulder and manages to stab the side of the goblin's neck after it jumps on him. The party celebrates. Too soon, the goblin's hand twitches and he leaps up to attack again. Ranta catches it and stabs the goblin repeatedly. Everyone is shocked. This is the first time anyone has taken a life. They sell the silver piece and black wolf's fang they looted from the goblin and take the rest of the day off to go shopping. The guys get ready for bed after having a bath, but Ranta has different plans. He's going to sneak into the bath to catch a glimpse of the girls. The others are not on board. The guys apologize. Well, everyone but Ranta. He admits to breaking the wall trying to peep and gets a well-deserved slap from Yume. Out in the rain, tracking is out of the question, and the tension between the guys and girls is palpable. The next 3 days are even less fruitful. The party doesn't make a single copper. They go to the old city of Demuro to hunt down goblins and practice tactics so they are able to take on more than one enemy at a time. They're in luck. They finally got some loot and earned some money. Haru is finally able to buy new underwear, having worn the clothes that were on his back when he arrived in Grimgar. That night, Yume encourages Shihoru to talk to the boys despite her shyness, while Haru values Monatu as the group leader and as a friend. Haruhiro double-checks how long it's been since they arrived in Grimgar before bed. By his count, they've been there for 23 days. The party acquires some new skills and intends to practice them on some goblins. Yume is learning close quarters combat before she is proficient with a bow. She uses the diagonal cross to help Haru cut down a goblin. Ranta learns the skill Anger, yelling the name every time he uses it, and every other skill for that matter. Similarly, Moguzo says thank you every time he uses his new skill, Rage Blow, when locking weapons. Monatu learns Smash, so he can be on the front lines but still heal the party. It's a successful day so far, though Minato skips over Haru when going over everyone's unique strengths they bring to the team. He vows to ask him later, if he ever gets the chance. Haru notices a crossbow bolt reflecting in the sun as he walks behind Minato. Leaping into action, he pushes Minato out of the way, taking the bolt to his left shoulder and one right through his left calf. Haru drops his black blade dagger in the commotion as Minato gets him into cover to heal his wounds. More goblins, but not your everyday run-of-the-mill goblins. One is giant, with a club to match, while the other is skinny, blue, and much taller than any goblin they've seen thus far. The party begins their retreat, and just when it looks like it's safe to rest, Minato collapses, an arrow lodged in his back. The wound is grievous, and Minato is all out of magic. The party dresses the wound, rushing to the priest guild to ask Minato's master to save their leader and friend. Bursting through the door, Minato in tow, they beg the priest to heal him. There's only one problem: you can't heal the dead. There's a curse, explains the master priest, which reanimates corpses after 3 to 5 days, and that they should cremate him to avoid such a fate. They heed his warning and shell out the expenses for a funeral and gravestone in honor of their friend. The party stands over their newly departed comrade, paying their respects, until Ranta decides to leave, which merits yet another slap from Yume. He ends up in the tavern, where Haruhiro and Moguzo find him. The trio argues about Minato's death, who is responsible, and what they are going to do now. One of those who awoke in Grimgar joins them, wondering where their leader is. Offering half-hearted condolences, he suggests finding a new priest. He even has a name in mind: Mary. On their first excursion, Mary is very cold and short with the rest of the party members. She doesn't agree with their strategy and refuses to heal in the middle of battle. Ranta keeps losing his temper with her, and she puts him in his place more than once. Back at the tavern, Haru, Ranta, and Moguzo drink and complain about the latest addition to the party. Renji enters the tavern and, to their surprise, makes his way to their table. He had heard about Minato's death and wanted to offer his condolences, which consists of him tossing a gold coin on their table and walking away. Haru shouts after him to wait. With the entire tavern's eyes on him, he refuses to accept the money, dropping it into Renji's hand. Minato wouldn't have wanted them to accept his charity. Haru decides to speak with the girls and apologize for not consulting with them about new party members. Asking Yume if she's upset for not including them in the decision, she shoves him into the wall, telling him that's not what's wrong. Yume believes they are all friends, but the lack of communication seems to indicate otherwise. Haru apologizes, and they both break down over their shared grief for Minato. They embrace and lie together on the ground. Shihoru opens a window, only to clumsily attempt to close it before they realize she saw them in an easily misinterpreted position, though she apologizes profusely anyway. It takes a second, but it dawns on Yume why Shihoru would be so embarrassed. Ranta is having none of it. He's adamant that something is happening between Yume and Haru, despite them trying to explain it to no avail. The party resolves to be friendlier to Mary. She's slowly beginning to thaw, but hasn't quite warmed up yet. She heals Moguzo after the battle, but still refuses to heal Ranta's scratches. Mary shows up to the tavern, but she doesn't even acknowledge the party. To be fair, they don't acknowledge her either. Sitting alone at the bar, they see her talking with another party's leader. Haru figures that Minato meant for him to be his successor as party leader. He starts speaking with Minato's ghost, his imagination reacting to grief. Taking on the role of leader, Haru begins to take note of the party's fighting style, strengths, and what equipment they may need, like a helmet for Moguzo. Everyone decides to chip in for it when Haru mentions it to Moguzo. They ask Mary to join them for dinner, but she refuses again, though more politely. Haru invites the rest of the party to meet with the person who spoke with Mary at the tavern the other night. It turns out that one of his party members used to be in Mary's group. He details why Mary isn't so merry. In the Cyrene mines, there is a giant kobold named Death Spots, due to the incredibly high chance of death if one should lay eyes upon the monster's spots. Mary used to be like Minato, always helping and proactively healing the group, until her party was decimated by the giant kobold. Out of magic, with 2 dead party members and a third on his last legs, Hayashi dragged her out of the mines to save her life. Mary blames herself for their deaths and hasn't smiled since. After learning why Mary is so cold and reserved, the party realizes that they have more in common than they previously thought. They empathize with her and decide to help her as best they can. Scouting with Yume, Haru sees the dagger he dropped when Minato died and almost rushes in without thinking, but Yume tackles him before the goblin notices. Taking a more level-headed approach, they decide to tail the goblins to find their hideout. Haru asks Mary to talk. She's prepared to be kicked out of the party, but instead, Haru explains the party's loss of Minato, how the party isn't merely random acquaintances, but friends, and they consider her one too. They get Moguzo a helmet and continue to train and learn new skills, making a name for themselves as goblin slayers. Every day, they return to the area where they found the goblin who killed Minato. They invest their money in gear and skills. Haru starts seeing a green light, which guides his dagger strikes so they always hit vital points, getting an instant kill. Still unable to sleep well at night, Haru talks to himself, imagining Minato there with him so he can ask for advice. Where once he was able to remember, now Haru is starting to lose count of the days. The only real indication of time is the waxing and waning of the red moon. The party is finally ready to avenge Minato and hunt down the goblins who killed him. They huddle and resolve to not let anyone else die, no matter what. Mary is finally starting to warm up to the party. They launch their assault on the goblin hideout, cutting down the first few with ease. They head up to the top floor, where the tall blue and giant green goblins put up much more of a fight. They understand how humans fight, catching them by surprise. With a bit of teamwork, Moguzo defeats the giant goblin, sending him through the floor with a powerful strike. Haru and Yume focus on the tall blue one, not your typical goblins. Haru gets on top of the blue one, attempting to stab it right in the eyes. Instead, the blade goes through the goblin's hand. He isn't strong enough to land a fatal blow. Thrown off, the goblin retreats. The party chases him to another room where he sits half dead, unable to fight back. Just as Ranta raises his blade to strike, a bolt is let loose, hitting Mary right in the back. Haru cannot believe it's happening all over again, until Mary responds, able to heal herself. In the confusion, the blue goblin gets up to attack, obviously feigning defeat to lure them into a trap. Ranta is quick to attack, and Moog finishes him off with a heavy two-handed strike. Haru spots the goblin who shot Mary and races after him, jumping out onto the rooftop where they clash. The goblin drops the black knife and wrestles Haru as they slide down the pitch, both hands around Haru's neck. Yume calls out, she needn't worry. Haru grabs the black knife and sinks it deep into the side of the goblin's neck. Finally, they avenge their lost comrade. Visiting Minato's grave, Haru wonders what to say. They all pull out their newly acquired badges, trainees no longer, knowing that Minato would be proud of all of them. They place the badge they bought for Minato on his grave. Following their success, the party decides to take a well-deserved day off. Haru finds it strange not to train or hunt down goblins. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Moguzo feels the same way and ends up doing chores and errands despite having the day off. Ranta has gone fishing, where he sees Yume practicing rock climbing. Haru meets up with Mary at her residence for coffee. They head to the tavern together at the end of the day to meet up with the rest of the party to decide what to do next. Haru wants to switch things up so they don't get complacent and cocky. They float the idea of heading to Cyrene Mine to practice fighting kobolds. Mary has an anxiety attack and rushes out to get some fresh air, with Haru close behind. She collects herself and reasons that going to the mine would give her a sense of closure, that she needs to face her fears to overcome them. Haru heads to the Thieves' Guild to learn some new skills and ask about the green light. Barbara explains that it's a fairly normal thing for thieves, but it doesn't happen to the other thieves as often as it seems to for Haru. With the party all set to go, they head to the mines, determined to help Mary work through her grief while facing new foes to improve their skill set. The party enters the Cyrene Mine, cutting down 3 lesser kobolds with ease. Ranta starts ripping off their nose rings, which Mary explains are protection talismans. She goes on to explain that there are lesser, normal, and elderly kobolds. There's a gondola, but since it's heavily guarded, they use wells to traverse the different levels. Haru questions Ranta's morals when he suggests killing sleeping kobolds, going on to explain the Dark Knight philosophy, falling on deaf ears as everyone has already moved on. Haru becomes concerned about Ranta and his attitude towards the group. He tries to play the leader role, but has his doubts. He decides to confront him to better understand Ranta's point of view, which goes about as well as he thought. Ranta is standoffish and doesn't want to make friends with the party. Back in the mine, Ranta is stubborn and arrogant as always. They come to a level with an underground farm. Ranta sets off an alarm, alerting the kobolds. Not just any kobold either. Death Spots is on the prowl. Mary has a flashback of her old team getting ready to head to the mine. Haru's voice brings her back to reality. Death Spots is on the hunt, but Mary has the mine mapped out and directs the party to the Temple of Luminaris, a safe haven since kobolds rarely venture there. She finds the staff she left behind when suddenly 3 figures appear, the 3 party members Mary couldn't save. Having been raised from the dead due to the curse of the No-Life King, they still wander the mines. Mary learned a spell specifically to break the curse so she could put them to rest and relieve them of their suffering. A thief, warrior, and mage, Haru tries to strategize and analyze, but Ranta reminds him that he isn't Minato. They manage to hold out long enough for Mary to break the curse, turning them to ash. She thanks the party for helping put her friends to rest and getting the closure she needed. The party takes a moment to collect themselves when Death Spots bursts through the wall. They start running as Death Spots calls for backup. They are outnumbered. Everyone begins climbing scaffolding to reach the level above. Some of the beams break, and Haru finds himself in free fall until Ranta catches him by the arm. Just when it looks like they will all make it, the beams break underneath Ranta's feet. Haru tries to catch him, but fails. He falls, surrounded by enemies, and all alone. Everybody agrees to go back for Ranta. They made a promise that no one would die. They intend to keep it. Ranta makes it to the level above, escaping the clutches of Death Spots. Hiding out in a field, he accidentally alarms the whole level. Luckily, kobolds aren't the only ones within earshot. The party moves in on his position, but so does Death Spots, suddenly springing up from the level below. Yume uses her last arrow to blind his left eye as the party makes their escape. The coast is clear. Everyone is ready to go home, but not everyone is ready to let them. Death Spots lumbers up the shaft from the depths below. Haru jumps into action immediately, instructing the rest of the party to run, to live, as he and Death Spots tumble over the edge. Regaining consciousness, he sees them leave. Ranta demands that he make it out alive. Haru and Death Spots square up. Haru prepares to die when the green light appears and time slows down. A guiding line of light directs his blade towards Death Spot's one good eye. Making that no good eye, the blade connects and the behemoth crashes to the ground while Haru passes out. Upon waking up, Haru sees Mary and asks if this is heaven, to her amusement. The rest of the party is outside, in good spirits, throwing a large sack of 30 gold on the ground, the reward for killing Death Spots. They explain that since he's the leader, he should divvy up the spoils. Even though Haru's memories are gone, he gets to make new ones and is thankful for the friends he's made, determined to become a better leader while they explore the world of Grimgar together. Thank you for sticking until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.